Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to be making banana donuts, kind of a Chipotle chicken melt, and we're going to be making some fresh juices. And so I'm going to start out by, we're going to fillet our chicken breasts in half because we're going to use this to make 2 sandwiches. So you just kind of want to cut it all the way down right through the middle. Almost like if you're going to do a butterfly of the chicken, but just go all the way through. So we have 2 kind of nice fillets. And then if you see any fat or anything on your chicken fillets that you want to take off, now's the time to do it. Okay. We are going to season up our chicken, and then we're going to let it marinate for a little bit. We're going to put a little Worcestershire sauce on it, a little Southwest Chipotle seasoning. We're going to marinate both sides, and then a little Chipotle powder, and then some garlic salt. And then we're going to flip over and do it with the other side as well. Okay. Again, Worcestershire. And that's going to make your chicken nice and juicy and tender. The garlic salt, Chipotle chili powder, and some Southwest Chipotle seasonings. And our chicken is ready to marinate. Super simple. It's like a quick marinade. And the Worcestershire, the acidity of that is going to allow those flavors to kind of melt in quickly. And we'll saute that up in just a minute. But let's start on our banana donuts. Just grab this out of the way. Okay. So, as you know, last week I bought way too many bananas. I thought I was buying 5 or 6 bananas. I put in that. I ended up buying 6 bundles of bananas. So, we have lots of bananas to get through. Need to right over here. As you can see, yesterday we made banana bread, so I'm making banana donuts, and I need 4 very ripe bananas. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Looks like I have enough bananas for 1 more banana recipe. The browner the banana, the better, because that is going to give you those nice banana flavors. Now, you don't want them to be moldy, but you want them to be brown and squishy. And that is going to, the brown comes from the oxidation or the sugar coming out, and it makes it really sweet. So while they might not be enjoyable to eat fresh, baked up, these are the best. There we go. And then I am going to take my fork and we're going to do a quick little mash of these so they kind of turn into a paste. And that's why you also want really, really ripe bananas so they mash up nicely. You know, if you just have them that where they're like not good for eating, they don't smush up enough. And then you'll get like big banana chunks in your banana bread or donuts or muffins. And it's just not as nice.
You have a question. Do you have a cookbook?
I do not have a cookbook. I know. People keep asking me. And I'm like, maybe that's something I'm going to try to work on this year. We'll see. I've got 5 kids and they keep me on my toes, so don't have a lot of free time. But we do upload all of our videos onto the link on our page, so you can always go back and recreate from there. We are going to add a cup of brown sugar to our banana mash. So this is a 1/2 cup, so I'm going to do it twice. And make sure you pack it in. You need firmly packed. And that's because brown sugar is more fluffy than granulated sugar. So packing it in ensures that you're getting the right amount. Okay. We've got 1 cup of brown sugar. And then we're going to mix this in as well.
You have a question. Do you know what you're making for dinner?
Yes, we are going to actually be prepping up some sourdough tortillas for tonight, and I'm going to be making some Mexican food for dinner. not exactly 100% sure what Mexican food I am making, but I do have a bunch of avocados. So I know I'm going to make guacamole and we're going to do tacos. I'm just deciding whether we want to do pork tacos or chicken tacos. So that's the end thing, but that's what we're going to kind of do is some form of taco. Okay, we've got our soupy banana mixture all ready. Get my hands, I got a little brown sugar on it. I'm going to get a spatula now, and then we're going to add the rest of the liquid ingredients, and then we're going to move on to the dry ingredients. So we're going to add in 5 tablespoons of melted butter, and then the other 3 tablespoons you're going to just use for rubbing on your donut at the end to put the cinnamon sugar on. You're not actually going to use 3 whole tablespoons of the other one, but it's nice to have a little bit to them, and you want it to be room temperature. We're going to add in 2 eggs. So 1, 2. And then I'm going to pop these yolks, and we're going to mix these in. Now I'm using butter in my recipe, which means I'm going to end up with a thicker batter, which I find is really nice for the donuts. I do have my mini donut maker right here warming up. If you don't have a donut maker, you can always get one of those donut trays. That's a cheaper option. And then you could bake this in the oven at 350 for 15 minutes. But I love my donut maker. I've had it for well over a decade, and it gets used about once or twice a month. So it's been chugging along. I actually bought it in college, so it's been trusty. Okay, we've got our eggs and our butter mixed up in here. Now we are going to add in 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Let me grab my teaspoon measure. With salt, I always eye it, but with baking powder or baking soda, I always measure it precise because baking powder and baking soda are very bitter. So if you put too much in, it's going to mess with the taste, and it's also going to mess with the rising action. So we want 2 teaspoons of baking powder, not baking soda. We're going to mix these in until they're well incorporated. Then we're going to add in our flour. And that is the base of our delicious banana donuts. So just mix until all of that baking powder is mixed up. Here's where you can really do the good mixing. After this, you don't want to over mix the batter once you add the flour because it will lead to a stiffer donut versus a nice soft fluffy one. Okay. Now we're going to use 2 cups of all-purpose flour. So no need to waste your good bread flour on this. Good old all-purpose. You don't want to use self-rising either. So just all-purpose flour. 1 and 2. Slide this right behind me. And then we're going to mix this in until it is just combined. It's going to be chunky, but you want it chunky. If you over mix it, that's when your final product is going to be stiff. So avoid that. Leave it chunky. That's what you want. Okay, let's mix these up, and I'm going to mix it until it's just incorporated. That's why I like to do this with a big spoon versus a hand mixer, because I think it's really easy to over mix things with a hand mixer because it beats it so fast. And I think naturally people like to try to make it smooth. Okay, so here is our chunky dough for our banana donuts. And these are going to be like old-fashioned donuts, cake donuts, not like a yeast donut. I have my banana thing. Let's move it a little closer. Nice and hot and ready. I always like to give it a good spray down between each coating. I think it helps make the donuts more golden, and they come out effortlessly every time. And we're just going to scoop this up in here. And you just want to make sure you don't overfill each one. And this recipe makes about 20 donuts, give or take. And what I use is I just use the big kitchen spoon, you know, the one in your utensil set, the bigger spoon. That's what I use to scoop it out. Just a big spoonful of it. So I would say it's about 2 tablespoons or 1.5. But that's kind of what I use to scoop it in there. And again, you don't want to overfill them. These are thicker things, so I just put a nice blob on top. And then you see the other ones, they'll puff up into that. And they need about 3 or so minutes to cook. But we'll just leave them there and let them cook. And then when they come out, we'll rub them with butter and sprinkle some cinnamon sugar over. Okay. Let's get our chicken cooking up for our sandwiches.
You have a question. Is the recipe going to be posted anywhere?
Yes. So the recipe is actually, I have the recipe card on the link on our page, as well as lots of videos too on there of making this, because we've made these a couple of times. They are a favorite. So you can definitely find the recipe available. And it has both the options for doing it in your oven or with a donut maker. But it's for a mini donut tray versus a big donut. So if you have the bigger donuts, you would need to cook them a little bit longer. Okay, put about a 2 teaspoons of oil in here. We're gonna heat that up, and then we're gonna put our chicken breasts in here. We're gonna let it get nice and hot, put our Chipotle marinating chicken breasts in there to cook up. And while we're doing that, let's prep our juice. So I want to cut up actually a pineapple because this guy is ready to go. And I'm going to use some of my pineapple leftover bits in my juice. So let's get this guy. He is ready. He is nice and gold. We've been trying to cut him up for like the last day or two, so I just hope he isn't too far gone. Sometimes you get you forget what you're doing, and then you're like, he's got to happen. So I'm cutting off these bits right here because I'm going to put them through my juicer. They'll be nice and sweet. Again, I'm going to cut these sides. These aren't ones that I would use when I'm slicing my pineapple, but I will be able to get some good pineapple juice out of them. So we're going to keep these to the side. And then we're going to cut down the middle. This is, I should have cut this pineapple like a day or two ago because it has a little bit of browning on it, but it will still be really good. It'll be really sweet. I'm going to save these cores for juicing as well because they will have a lot of good juice in them. And then we're just going to follow down. And then any parts that are a bit more brown, I'm going to save for juicing because they will go brown really quick after you cut them up. And that brownness, they're not rotten. That is just like with a banana or an apple. It's the sugar curring out. So they're actually really great for juice because they're the sweetest part of the pineapple, but they're not as great for like straight up eating wise, especially if you have young kids who are very much, oh, there's a brown spot and I can't eat it. Here we go. But this pineapple, for the most part, is pretty good. And then we're going to again save these things so those bits will be good for juicing. Same with the core. And then we'll cut down. And here, I was going to cut it up, and then we had soccer, which then turned, like on Wednesday, my daughter had a soccer game, and then we drove out there. We drove the hour out there, hour and a half, because it was rush hour to get there. And of course, they delayed it because of the rain, and then delayed it again, and then they ended up canceling it. So it kind of wasted like 3 to 4 hours of our night on Wednesday because we just drove out there and nothing happened. Now we're going to do that again next week. Our oil here is nice and hot, so I'm going to put my chicken fillets in. We want to cook these on like high heat. That way they get a nice, I got a big Chipotle whip in my mouth, a nice sear on them. And they'll cook up pretty fast. They won't need much time to cook, which is nice. That's when you butterfly them in half. They'll cook up really quickly. And then they'll stay nice and tender. You don't want to overcook them. Okay. Let's get these guys. I'm going to do a couple. So we got our pineapple, which we'll save for mealtime. But we're going to use this pineapple juice to make or pineapple pieces to make some delicious juice. I'm going to do a grapefruit pineapple juice, which I think will go really well. The pineapple will help sweeten up the grapefruit, which is a little bit more acidic. And then we're going to do a carrot apple grape juice, which the kids love. That's one of their favorite juices. I will say juicing is a great way to use up fruits that are like almost like done. So that's our keeper stuff. Now we're going to get our pineapple here. And you don't have to take off all of the things, just a little bit of it. That just saves the blades on your mixer or your juicer. So I'm just going to kind of cut it as close to the rind as possible, but it's fine because the way a juicer works is it only takes the liquid and not the pulp. I'm just getting some of it off. Again, that way you don't dull out your thing as much. I've gone through a couple juicers in my life. Oh, missed this whole pineapple thing. This one's good to go into our basket. Let's add this right over here. And let's flip these. Nice brown sear on them. This is what that Chipotle is getting me every time. But we want a nice crispy sear on it. I'm going to turn it down just a smidge now as we get the rest of this pineapple ready to go into the juicer. There we go. Okay. We're going to cut these and go through. Most of the stuff you can put in a juicer full on. It's not a problem. Of course, if you have any stone fruit, you have to remove the stone of it. Lost a pineapple chunk. But the, what is that I was going to say? Like skins, you can even do orange skins, grapefruit skins. I personally take the skins off because I find that the rinds have a little bit of a not as great flavor. But let's start with this bit. We're going to bring it over here and we're going to start juicing it. And then we'll add our grapefruits in there. So I will say I've gone through a couple juicers in my time. Eventually, just like all things with a motor, they just like break down. And they're really simple to use though. So we're going to turn this guy on. Oh, helps if I plug them in. There we go. And once we get this on, we're going to have this start going well, and then we'll take our donuts out. So we're just going to go through, and you get all this good juice right here. Okay. We're going to do the first one, but I think our donuts are just about ready. So let's check on them. Turn my chicken down so it's about done. Look at these nice golden brown donuts. Let me get a fork to get them out. Perfect. So this ice, when you spray it and you coat it there, it gives it a nice golden brown coating on it, and they're nice and soft and tender in there, and they're absolutely delicious. We're going to rub them with brown sugar in 1 second, but I always like to restart them. Here we go. Again, a spoonful in each one. And it's a pretty simple batter. It's simple to make, but it's a good way to use bananas that isn't just your straight up banana bread. You know what I mean? I find, banana bread's great, but it's fine to venture out. And these are a favorite in the family. They rarely make it to the next day. They're just delicious. And the brown sugar is what makes them so yummy versus using like a regular white sugar.
You have a question. What time typically are your lives each day?
They vary. Our lunchtime, we do try to keep it around starting around like 1:30ish, give or take. But we go with what our schedule is. And then our dinner time is really starts between anywhere between 7:45 and 8:15 Central Time. So it varies. But we try to keep around those things. Now, occasionally we do a brunch instead of, a lunch and whatnot. We coated these with some room temperature butter, and then we sprinkled some sugar over it. So they're nice and delicious. And I'm going to take my chicken and slide it to the side. Let's get our juicing going, and then we're going to start on our sandwich. Let's put the rest of this pineapple in. So you really just drop it in. Perfect. And the biggest thing is you don't want to have to force it in. Then you're going to risk like damaging your machine. So it should just slide down. That's why I like to make it in nice small chunks. Really easy. And the beauty of this is it's a great way, like your pineapple, if you're not using that part, you throw it away, you can use it to make some delicious juices. So now we're going to put in a grapefruit. I like to peel my grapefruits because I don't like the rind flavor in it. So I just kind of give it a peel like an orange. You could also slice it up. You could do the rind in it if you don't mind it, but I prefer, it's just a bit more bitter.
You have a question. Is there a specific KitchenAid that you love the best?
For the stand mixers, that would probably be my, I have the professional series. Although I will say if you're small, like a regular family, we're a big family, so I typically do double recipes a lot. The professional series of it does not do small batches well. So that a standard KitchenAid is much better for that than the professional one. Okay. Put our grapefruit in. There we go. And then we're just going to add one more in there. But while we do that, actually, we'll do this real quick. Then we'll check on our donuts, and then we'll cut up our sandwiches ready. Now, I will say there are sometimes when I do a lime, I will keep the peel on it because I think the lime peel is really nice and lemon peel. But for oranges and grapefruits, I think they're too bitter. And if I ever use like watermelon, I don't use the rind. I take the rind off in watermelon too because I'm not a big fan of that flavor. And I prefer just the nice fruit flavor. But you don't have to even do much work to kind of get these going, which is nice. And we'll have one big thing of pineapple grapefruit juice. Perfect. So we've got that one ready. Let's get our sandwich. Let's take a peek of these, see if they need any longer. Maybe a minute, two longer, just a little bit. We want them to have a nice golden color. While we're doing that, let's get our sandwiches cooking up. So we're going to use our homemade sourdough bread that we baked up a couple days ago. Tonight, we're going to be baking up our bread we prepped last night, which I'm excited for. We did our spicy pepperoni and mozzarella loaf. And then I did a traditional loaf, but I made them small. So I have a bunch of small Dutch ovens that I'm going to bake them in. So they're going to be like little baby loaves, which I think is just cute. And you'll just have your individual loaf. Will actually probably be good if you did a soup or something with them. But I'm excited for that because I saw somebody doing that on, on one of those like streaming things, and they had little ones, and I was like, oh, I have little Dutch ovens. A unnecessary buy that I don't know why I bought them, but it was from like Joanna Gaines's collection at Target, and they had these little individual Dutch ovens, which are very impractical. But of course, I had to buy them so that I could somehow think in my idea that I would make individual Dutch oven meals for each. Nope. I did it once and it was a lot of extra work. I did it once where we did it with like biscuits. I did a beef stew with a biscuit on top. And so everybody had their own. And then I also did it once with like an apple baked thing with a crumble on top. But again, it was too much work. Okay, let's set these down. Let's grab these donuts real quick because they should be just about perfect. Yep. We'll take our fork here. Now they are hot coming out. I used the fork for it. You could use the whole fork. Everyone says that my fingers like don't feel heat, so it'll probably be too hot for you guys at home. But I think when you've cooked a long time, you develop like heat calluses on your hands because the heat really never bothers me. Okay, let's get our batch in, and we're gonna get going. Okay, so we've made 10, so we've got about this batch and one more afterwards. I will say it is about pretty even with it being 20 donuts every time. Now, sometimes I'll have Chef Teddy helping me, and when Chef Teddy helps me, a lot of batter goes missing. So sometimes we don't get quite 20 with him helping. It is a delicious batter, by the way. Okay. Last one in for this batch. Let it cook.
You have a question? So all your multitasking, does that just take time and experience?
Yes, I feel like, once you get really comfortable cooking in the kitchen, it doesn't, you know that there's dead space, and then I fill it up doing other things. And so it is something that comes with time. Okay, I coated them with some room temperature butter, and now we're going to sprinkle them over with cinnamon sugar. So this is both, we pre-mix it because we eat a lot of cinnamon sugar toast in this house. My kids absolutely love it. Especially like your fresh sourdough bread. You toast it up with some butter and cinnamon sugar in the morning. Delicious. Okay. We've got some muenster cheese. We're going to do the first layer on each one with some muenster. And I like to do like a white cheese with these. I avoid like a cheddar with the kind of the spices. I think the muenster, Gouda, mozzarella play nice with this, the flavors. Okay, we've got that. Let's get our chicken. Got a nice little golden crisp on each one. And then I'm going to put some tomatoes on mine because I love tomatoes.
Do you have a question? Do you meal plan, and do you shop for groceries with meals in mind?
No, I do not. I'm really terrible about meal planning. I typically go to the store to buy ingredients and whatever is fresh and whatever looks great. And then it's how I feel during the day is what we're going to eat. So I essentially have so many ingredients in my house that I can cook almost any meal at a given time. We're a large family. So I always like to buy sales or, things that look great in there. And then we have our 4 fridges that we keep everything in. And so I just it's like going into a grocery store every day between my pantry and our fridges. And that's what I decide what we're having for the day is just by looking at and figuring out and seeing how I feel. Or if a kid requests something and then I'm like, okay, we can do that. So I know I should probably meal plan better. And I tried. I did like the chalkboard where I wrote it out. I tried to do it for the week and I was like, can't do this, can't stick to that. No way that's happening. And then I tried to do it for a day. And again, that didn't happen. we are going to make a little aioli real quick. But yes, and so most of the time, I don't know what I am making for dinner until dinner time, like right before it. Today, I knew we are going to make tortillas. So that's when I was like, okay, we've got this. Let me grab some mayo. We're going to do an aioli.
A follow-up question: do you shop every week?
Yes, sometimes multiple times in the week because my kids seem to never tell me when they've eaten out of something, or we go through it, they're all like crazy and drink. We had 1 week where we drank 6 gallons of milk in 1 week, and I'm just like, what happened to all the milk? And so we had to go and get milk. We did about a tablespoon of mayo, pinch of garlic salt, a little chipotle chili powder, and a little Southwest seasoning. This is just going to give you a nice little seasoned mayo. I always like to call it aioli, but technically you need to add oil in for it to be an aioli. So I know I actually, and I shop at lots of different places. So we shop at Costco. We're a big family, so of course we do some bulk shopping, and then we have our local like grocery store we go to, and then I actually really love like Amazon Fresh, where they're like a thing because it's really nice. They like deliver, and it's not a huge charge. So but I could get, if I need something, I can order at like 11 o'clock at night and it will be delivered in the morning. So that's like really nice. Okay, we're gonna have these start cooking. You good looking, what you got cooking? Okay. I'm gonna start them on, skillet up. We're gonna just let them toast up nicely. And let's move this right here. We've got our first yummy juice done. So look at this. So the ends and bits of our pineapple and 2 grapefruits gave us like 30 some ounces, probably 36 ounces of juice, which is pretty good for stuff that you were going to throw out half the time. Now we're going to do, this is my kid's favorite. It is carrot, apple, grape. Now, my one word to the wise with juicing is don't overload it with veggies. I find people try to think, oh, I'm going to add this and that in, and then your drink just ends up tasting like a salad, which is no bueno. It's not, your juice should be delicious and healthy. It doesn't need to be crazy. So I always say I like to add like a vegetable into it, but I don't go overboard because I still want my kids to drink it. And there are some veggies that are like no good. So beets, no matter what you do, they're so overpowering you can't get rid of. But spinach and kale are also really great to add in because they don't change the flavor too much. Carrots as well. Carrots are nice. They don't change the flavor as much. Let's check on these. Oh, these looking good. So we'll get these next batch in. And then we have the juice, and then we got to whip up our tortilla dough for tonight.
Yeah, question, what's in the sandwich?
The sandwich is we sauteed up a chicken breast with some Chipotle seasonings. Then we used our homemade sourdough bread, and we put muenster cheese on. We made a little Chipotle mayo, and I put tomatoes on mine, and then red onions on both. So kind of like a chicken frontega or Chipotle chicken melts, just a nice thing. It's a great way to use up our sourdough bread, and it's a good quick meal that I can make that is always a pleaser for us. So, it's nice like for when we do lunches, like 1 chicken breast can make 2 good sized sandwiches. Which is like a nice alternative to sandwich meats or whatnot, or doing something slightly different. Okay, let's see if I can get a little bit out. But look, perfectly made 20 donuts again, like usual. I've done this so many times, and it is 20 donuts, unless Chef Teddy is helping me, and then it's like 16. Okay. Let's coat these with our butter while they're warm. You want to do this while it's warm. That's why I said it doesn't need a lot of butter. just enough to help the cinnamon sugar cling to it. Now, you don't have to do cinnamon sugar. You could leave them plain. You could do powdered sugar, or you could make a glaze. But my kids love them with the cinnamon sugar, and it adds just the right amount of sweetness to it. Okay. Let's get this first batch juicing. So this is going to be for our carrot apple thing. So I had 4 apples. This is about 1.5 cups of baby carrots. And then I had grapes that were just about to go bad. They're like, the kids won't eat them because they've got a little smush to them, but they're still good. Great for juicing. It's a good way to have no waste. So we're going to add these in here. Turn on my juicer again. And I always like to finish off with the grapes because the grapes like clean out the blades. There we go. Lost the carrot piece. Who knew it was so dangerous juicing? And now our leftover grapes that were past their prime for eating but not rotten, which is great. Perfect. So now this juice is a bit sweeter, so it works well for adding. I like to do it with a little bit of water or some big ice cubes in it, and then it cools off. But this, again, is my kids' favorite. And it is just carrots, grapes, and apples. And it is so, I actually made some this morning, and my nieces and nephews were fighting over it with my 2 little ones. And I was like, it's okay, we have plenty. I'll make some more during nap time, I promise.
Yeah, but how long can that stay in the fridge?
The juices, I will say, if they're best drank the same day, but they are still good within 2 to 3 days. After that, they separate, and then the freshness isn't as much. So I would say if it's just for you and you don't mind cleaning, make it fresh every day. There's nothing better than the fresh part, especially because it's still foamy from spinning it. But 2 to 3 days is the max for like keeping it. After that, it kind of like the carrot in the carrot apple will really stand out. So that's why I'm like, after that one, it's doing so. But with my family, needs a little bit more. It typically goes so fast because we are a big group. And then they drink it, you know what I mean? Like, it goes really fast, especially because I don't buy juice for the kids. And so whenever I make it, it's a really special treat. And then it goes really fast. Okay, let's make our tortilla dough for tonight while our Chipotle melts are toasting up and our donuts are finishing.
I have a question. Where did you get the donut maker?
I believe I've had this for like almost 2 decades now. So where's my salt? Right over here. Okay, good. So I believe I got it from Walmart, if I can remember, back in Ames, Iowa, when I was there for undergrad. And it's a sunbeam, and it's shaped like a donut. It's the most ridiculous thing ever, but it is the best. It makes the best donuts. My kids love it when they see the donut maker out because they know, we made Easter donuts with them. We made St. Patrick's Day donuts, just different fun glazes. So it is definitely a hit. We are going to do 1 cup of sourdough starter. And now it doesn't have to be active, or discard. So I should say discard instead of starter. So 1 cup of it. And I like to make these in advance because they do puff up a little bit more, but you could also make this like right at dinner time. But I do like the nice like puff up they get from the sourdough. So we've got 1 cup of our starter. We're going to do all of our liquid ingredients first. We need a 1/2 cup of oil. So tortillas are like a higher fat thing, so they do have a lot more oil, but that's because we don't, when I cook them on a skillet, I don't use any oil in them to cook them with. Loki, no barking at the mailman. Okay, and then we're going to add in about 2 teaspoons of salt. So 1, 2, and then we need 2/3 cup of water. Here we go. And we're going to give this a good mix, and then we're going to add in about 3 1/3 cup of flour, and then we'll just mix it up. And then I divide it out into however many tortillas I want to make. Oh, perfect. Nice golden color. We're going to do crisp up the other side. Say mine with the tomatoes doesn't like to hold together as well, but the tomatoes are so good on it. Okay, let's check these out. Perfect. We'll pull these off, then we'll mix up our dough. So my kids will be so excited. These are, I made banana bread yesterday, and Torrin was like, oh, you should have made donuts. And I said, well, good thing we have so many old bananas. So we're going to have donuts today. So he'll be excited when he gets home from school. We're going to use our room temperature butter, and you just go over the top of them. And again, this at the start was about 3 tablespoons, and we didn't even use half, because all you're doing is you're just melting it over the top for the sugar to stick to it. Here we go. Okay, there. So we have our banana donuts with our cinnamon sugar, and you can dress them with some, oh, my guy who fell over here, some flat or powdered sugar if you wanted to, or you could make your own little glaze. But again, we think the powdered or the cinnamon sugar is the best. I did them once with a glaze, and they were like, no, go back to the cinnamon sugar. Okay, we're going to put in 3 1/3 cup of flour. So 1, 2, 3 1/3. And then I'm going to use my dough whisk to mix it together, and then we'll knead it together. And it will make our perfect tortilla dough. This is going to make, I like to do slightly bigger tortillas. So this is going to make about, I'll probably try to make 10 tortillas out of it, 10 big ones, maybe less, we'll see. Just because it's a little bit easier to just cook up 8 or 10 versus a bunch of little ones, because I do one at a time during my skillet. Okay, so we have a bit of a shaggy dough here, and we're just going to smush it together. And then on our countertop, we're going to knead it until it all comes together into a nice dough. And this is a great way to use up your sourdough discard. You get like a mild sourdough flavor in your tortilla, but more than that, just having recipes that use up a good amount of discard is always great to have on hand, because, you know, I never like to throw my discard away. I have so many different recipes to use for it. And so this one's a good one that's not a baked good. I will say, you know, there's so many baked goods you can do because it's really easy to replace that. But it's really nice to have a couple savory dishes that you can use your discard in that aren't just like bread or focaccias. Here we go. And give it a good knead, and it's going to hydrate. And what you want to do is you're going to knead it for about, I always knead it for a little bit, and then I stop, and then I knead it again to let it hydrate. And then I will divide it up into however many balls, like tortillas I want to make. And then I cover it with plastic wrap until dinner time, and I leave it out on the counter. And the balls will rise slightly because of the sourdough in it, but they don't get huge. Here we go. So we've got our first set of kneads in. And then I always let it wait like 5 to 10 minutes so that the flour hydrates, and then I give it another good knead. Well, let's get our plates out. And we are going to serve up lunch. So, slide this under, nice, beautiful golden brown. This is our Chipotle chicken melt with muenster cheese, our Chipotle seasoned chicken breast, red onions, and then we made a Chipotle mayo to bring all those flavors together on our homemade sourdough bread. We have the traditional loaf that we made up, and then this is my specialty loaf. It was saged, caramelized onions, and garlic. And then we made our delicious banana donuts. This is a family favorite recipe using 4 really ripe bananas and then brown sugar, and we coated them with some lovely cinnamon sugar for that just perfect, delicious final part to it. My kids are going to be so excited when they get home from school. And then, of course, we made up our delicious juices. So I'm going to show you because they don't look as great in there, but when you pour them out, they have a really nice, pretty color. So, of course, I like to add a little bit of ice to help keep them cold, and it helps dilute them a little bit. So, this, guys, was our carrot, apple, and grape juice. Look at that. Nice, beautiful, vibrant color. And this, I'm super excited for because I love this. Our grapefruit pineapple juice has that nice golden color from the grapefruit, and they're going to be absolutely delicious. It's a great way to use up fruit that is maybe not the most pretty or right a little bit past their prime, but still have all the delicious flavors in it. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what I'm making for my family, and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, all of our videos can be found on the link on our page. We do upload our lives there, so you can always check them out and hopefully cook along with them next time. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and